Every so-called pandemic that has taken place in the world was orchestrated.
Yes.
I'm serious.
Yes, sir.
Put me on record. I've done my own research.
Yes, sir.
And let no man fool you. They were already working on this. This plant had been there. 15 years previously, they were already working on this. And the crop of leaders that particularly engineered this have been working on it for years. And I told you this was their best opportunity yet.
In a very short time, not today, not tomorrow, but very soon, we'll be facing compulsory vaccination under the mistaken term of voluntary vaccination.
Are you talking to me now about the current swine flu?
I am.
Talking about. Now, what is it about these vaccinations? You think that they're bad?
Well, first of all, let's start with the fact that the World Health Organization has decided that we have 90% too many people. The World Health Organization has been working since 1974 on vaccines to create permanent sterility.
Doctor, the response is going to be, you're crazy. How can you say this stuff?
I show them the documentation.
Now, this is pretty shocking.
This process has already been ongoing. To make matters worse, we know that the vaccines that were illegally approved by the FDA contain a substance called squalene.
Squalene, an organic compound used in vaccines to stimulate the immune system and increase the response.
If I inject you with squalene, your immune system will attack the squalene, but then it starts attacking all of the parts of your body. What does that look like when you meet a person to whom that is happening? It looks like Gulf War syndrome. It looks like every joint in the body swollen and intolerably painful and immobilized.
This is in these shots they're going to give us?
It's in some of them, but the U.S. government has a trick up their sleeve.
Which is?
They will induce a pandemic using the nasal mist vaccine, which is a live attenuated virus. That means that if I take it, I can infect you. You're going to get the flu. Everybody around us is going to get the flu. Then the United States government, based on their statements that they've already made, will say, oh my, we have a pandemic. What that means is a Holocaust, a genocidal Holocaust.
Agreement was formed that would mandate the reduction of humans from 6 billion to 800 million by the year 2030. This meant finding a method or methods to wipe out nearly 95% of the population. Solutions were discovered, investigated, tested, then created, and have been in full force since. The procedures have been inflicted onto the human race are as follows. 1. Toxic levels of chemically enhanced fluoride have been secretly added to our drinking water over the last 20 years in every city and community on the planet. I personally oversaw the delivery of fluoride barrels to Denver, Chicago, Tampa, and Minneapolis water departments. The adverse effects of fluoride poisoning to the human body are numerous and debilitating. The effects to children is damage to their neurological development, among other serious ailments. 2. Man-made viruses and diseases. The AIDS virus, which was a designer byproduct of the American Disease Institute, was distributed through vaccines to the public in 1980. Instituted as a preliminary population control tactic, the results were successful and led to more lab-produced viruses that have since been unleashed onto the public. Among those is the development of a mutated version of the common flu to replicate the 1918 influenza pandemic that killed 40 million people. The first strain of this new flu virus will be released to the public in late 2017. So if we see a flu outbreak in the late 2017 or early 2018 that's killing people, we'll know this is true. All right. Three, killing us from the air with neurotoxins, barium chloride, cancer microbes, and viruses by way of chemtrails. Released into the skies daily over all inhabited regions by military aircrafts. The effects of these toxins are severe and over time lethal, causing respiratory ailments, cancer, damage to the immune systems, and sterilization in men.
Years ago, a document produced by Rockefeller Foundation, 4 scenarios of the future. Interesting, 4 scenarios of the future. And here is what they had as their 4 scenarios. Number 1, lockstep, a world of tighter top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. Now, that one was to be achieved through the pandemic. When you read the details, it's all about the pandemic and how the world will be paralyzed with it. And everything that happened, all that is in lockstep. All this is part of the plan. It's all there. So when you read the details, this is just to introduce it. If you go into the details of the document, you will see them. It's years ago.
Et je me souviens d'un dîner en 87 ou 88, chez un monsieur, je ne sais pas si je peux citer son nom.
Tu peux.
Chez monsieur Attali. Et on parlait de dépopulation. Moi j'ai cru qu'il plaisantait. Je crois que c'était un joke. Mais vous avez vu le joke où on est? 80% de la population. Et puis j'ai découvert, là je ne le savais pas, qu'en 77, il avait donné une interview, qui a fait un livre, j'ai oublié le nom de l'intervieweur, où il dit qu'effectivement, il faudra à un moment, il y a trop de population sur Terre, donc il faudra à un moment trouver une solution ou un vaccin, dit-il, 77, qui aidera, et les faibles, les innocents, en demanderont et iront à l'abattoir. Enfin, c'est pas exactement ces mots, mais c'est dans cet esprit.
It's the fittest murdering, killing the unfit, not giving them a chance to live.
According to the World Health Organization, a pandemic is the worldwide spread of new disease.
That's not what it means. The spread and the infectious nature of the disease has to be such that it covers most of the world's regions and affects a definite number of people to a certain level to be classified as a pandemic. Now, what happened was the World Health Organization decided to lower the bar, to lower the standard for defining a pandemic, because they knew that the spread was failing.
It is estimated that the COVID pandemic is the 21st documented pandemic recorded in history.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
The COVID pandemic was the worst pandemic since the Spanish flu of 1918. Millions of deaths were recorded. But of course, evidence has shown that most deaths were a result of strict health policies. Health workers were not allowed to care for COVID patients.
I do want to say, though, that in this whole scamdemic period, I think a lot of health care workers are getting a bad rap. Most of the, if not all, the nurses that I worked with, they wanted to help. And I think they were doing the best they could, but again, under mind control. Most of them submitted to the jab, they wouldn't listen. But you know, the bad treatment, early intubation, getting remdesivir, not being allowed to get early treatment, and then isolating these patients was horrific. You know, not getting cleaned as much as they should be, not having an advocate there for them, not allowing their loved ones to be there might have been the largest atrocity of the whole, of what I saw. These patients were lonely, afraid, teetering on death. And I should mention too, that, one of the craziest things I saw is these patients wanted to see family more than anything. Perhaps they'd been there 2 or 3 weeks. They're afraid, they're sick, they just want to see somebody they love. And the only way for a period of time that they would allow a family member to come in is if the patient submitted to being put on comfort cares. So essentially, they would be told, well, we will let you see your wife if you submit to us killing you shortly after. I mean, literally, they didn't say it in those words, but once you're put on comfort cares, life-saving measures are slowly withdrawn and the patient dies within minutes to hours.
What we did initially was a disaster. Frankly, from a legislative perspective, what we did was we actually incentivized murdering patients in hospitals. What we did was we said, if you go to the hospital and you get a positive COVID test, then the hospital gets more money. If you get put on remdesivir, the hospital gets more money. If you get put on a vent, the hospital gets more money. If you die, the hospital gets more money. So incentivizing treating a patient to get better, instead of saying you get more money when this patient's healthy, we said you get more money when they die. What incentive for a hospital system is there to do anything different from that when the protocol's there? The medical boards and all of these groups, listen, frankly, it would take me 3 days to go through all the evidence that I have on corruption throughout the country on all of these guys. We've dealt with protecting doctors from just nonsensical attacks on their license around the country by medical boards whose board members were practicing doctors and nurses who made tons of money off of the existing COVID protocols. When people like Dr. Bartlett had protocols that worked much better. The medical boards have to be reined in a little bit because what they did demonstrated that their interest was more in money than it was in protecting the lives of patients, in my opinion.
The pandemic was never real. It was planned. And the figures were never enough by the WHO standard to declare it a pandemic. It was not a pandemic. They changed the standards by themselves. They lowered the numbers by themselves to allow for the description of a pandemic. It was all a lie. It was a deception from the beginning.
There are at least 4 co-conspirators in the creation of this virus. First up is Dr. Anthony Fauci. All the indications point to the fact that Fauci was in on it the entire time. He was pretending like he was responding to something that was brand new, but he knew the entire time. In fact, he was part of a conspiracy to cover up where the virus came from. To begin with, early in January 2020, there's a whole set of emails and phone calls saying, oh boy, we're in trouble. The virus got out of the lab in China. And Fauci and Francis Collins and others said, listen, let's tell them that it came out of nature. Don't point to the lab in China. Intentionally. The committee has gotten this out. Second co-conspirator is Dr. Ralph Baric. He's the engineer. He's the one who engineered taking part of a bat coronavirus onto a human coronavirus and making it invade and be lethal. Third one is Dr. Peter Daszak at the EcoHealth Alliance. He carried the plans from Baric over to China. Finally, Dr. Xing Li. She's the bat lady in China. She went into the bat caves and handled the bats and harvested the virus, what have you. And they published papers. Those 2 papers in the upper right are papers, manuscripts, in widely read journals. The first one is in Nature Medicine. The other one's in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. And they announced their creation in 2015 and 2016. They announced that they created it. Look what they called it. A SARS-like cluster in the first paper. The second paper, a SARS-like Wuhan Institute of Virology, CoV virus, poised for human emergence. They telegraphed it. They said it's ready to go. That's what these papers say. It's ready to go. We've got it. We created the virus. They announced it in broad daylight.
You remember when they said that the WHO was hesitant to declare a pandemic? Well, I did tell some people at that time, they're not hesitant. They're trying to be trustworthy. They're giving the impression that somehow they're working on something. They weren't working on something. They were part of the crime all the time.
We only have an illusion of a pandemic that was created by a faulty PCR test. 2, they're using this illusion in order to use drugs that kill people, which is then 3, the reason for making people believe that this is caused by the virus, the illusion, and then 4, use vaccines that are just as deadly as remdesivir and the other drugs.
In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the idea of forced vaccination and a digital certificate was subtly brought to the fore as a means of achieving the evil depopulation agenda and a one-world economic system. These were not vaccines, rather. They were found to be gene therapy. The vaccines introduced software into the body of the hosts, which had the capacity of altering the genetic code of that person.
Vaccine ideology says that human beings are inherently vulnerable, susceptible to infectious diseases. But the brilliance of mankind and science can improve upon God's creation by vaccination. So it's very much an arrogant hubris. And this started with smallpox. And what we learned through the 19th century and the smallpox vaccine, which is originally taking the lymph from cows or from horses, or even human to human, this got forced into people against their will. Parents got put in jail in the late 19th century if they didn't vaccinate their kids.
Sounds like California.
No, this really happened back then, the hubris. And I give great credit to Sir Alfred Russel Wallace, who wrote a treatise and said, listen, this is not working. It doesn't stop smallpox. And people were getting staph and strep infections. They were getting tetanus and syphilis from the vaccines because they could not have been sterilized. But the point is, people forced it into other people. It happened in the United States. It happened in the UK. It led to an uprising. And I said, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened with the COVID vaccine. So there's been a hubris. And for the longest time, there's been this unspoken vaccine ideology. Anybody who speaks out against any part of it is immediately targeted for censorship and reprisal. The idea here is that, listen, these vaccines aren't perfect. But in order for them to work, everybody has to take them, and if some people are injured or worse, they have to take it for the team.
I was fired after 31 years as an emergency room physician with not one single patient complaint against me in those 31 years. I was fired for saying that somebody who had natural immunity didn't need to be vaccinated against a disease to which they were already immune. Fortunately, I still had my medical license, even though I'd lost a significant part, at least 50% of my income, and I couldn't work as an emergency room doctor anymore. I still had my private practice. So when I discovered from the biodistribution studies that Pfizer had hidden, that we knew that these vaccines go around your entire body, they do not just stay in your arm. Pfizer's biodistribution studies on the lipid nanoparticles show that they literally take those messenger RNA strands into every part of your body. They go into your brain and your lungs and your heart and your liver and your reproductive organs and your bone marrow and everywhere. Which is, by the way, why these COVID shots have caused a greater array of side effects than any other medical treatment in history. Because this toxic spike protein ends up in literally every part of your body.
Despite the sinister effects of these fake pandemics and evil vaccines, the proponents show no regret. In their quest to further advance their evil agenda, they continue to devise more tricks to deceive the world, such as vaccines hidden in foods and animals, genetically modified, GMO foods, and other wicked schemes.
They created fear around the world to intimidate. And many fell for it because they were not listening to God and they were ignorant of the scriptures. They didn't know that these things would come. And that the scriptures already told us what will come. But they did it anyway. And nobody was looking. But God saw it. And God awakened us to it. And I told you before that even if people went in the streets to protest and do all those things, that will not suffice. You have to deal with such things spiritually. And then other actions can produce results. Or except we bind the strong man in the realm of the spirit, all outward political actions will not help.
The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. Through our prayers, we will continue to keep the devil in check. And until the Church of Jesus Christ is raptured from the earth, no organization can enforce total control over humanity.